Dun 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 dun. Now I have to talk about Star Wars The Force Awakens, now don't I? I have to talk about a lot of things in this video, because as I said, this video was going to be all about reviewing shit. There's Star Wars The Force Awakens, there's WWE TLC, and their follow-up the next night on Raw. NXT TakeOver in London, and Ring of Honor's Final Battle, pay-per-view event. Watched a lot of stuff this week. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to put my spoiler-filled review of The Force Awakens at the very end, in case you don't want to have anything spoiled for you and you haven't seen it yet. And yeah, because I spent the whole week avoiding spoilers like mad, so I understand that you don't want to have anything spoiled for you. So look at the table of contents below. If you want to see the spoiler-filled review, I'm going to tack it on at the end, and I'll give all my specific feelings on the movie. But for a non-spoiler review, I'll start off with that right now. I really liked it. I really, really liked The Force Awakens. It's not perfect, but when I previewed it earlier this week, I said all I want from this movie is that it has to be better than the prequels. And it is. It definitely is. And I would say even better than that. It gave me more than I wanted. I thought it was a nice return to form for the Star Wars series, and I really did feel like I was back in the Star Wars universe. So it's very, very good. Couple of flaws here and there, but overall a very, very good experience. And if you're a Star Wars fan, I would imagine you would really like this movie. I mean, it was very, very good. Now, as far as a non-spoiler review of the movie goes, that's as much as I'm going to say, because I really don't want to get into any kind of specifics that would ruin the movie for people that haven't seen it. But, like I said, I'm tacking on my spoilery review at the end, so if you want to see that, go right ahead. Table of contents down below. So, with that, let's jump into the wrestling shows this week. Starting off with Sunday's Tables, Ladders, and Chairs 2015, the final pay-per-view effort from the WWE for this year, and their follow-up the next night on Raw. I will say that TLC was a meh show, like kind of in the middle of the road, maybe, kind of, not very good show, with a couple of really good things on it. And to be honest, I thought Raw the next night was much better than the pay-per-view. I thought Raw was actually one of their better Raws, probably their best Raw of 2015. But getting off to, let's start with the show itself. The ladder match, the three-way tag team ladder match, it was a car-wrecky spot fest, but it was a really fun one, and it really helps when you actually care about at least one of the teams involved. The New Day is just so entertaining and so engaging that their matches are instantly interesting because of it. And this was it was an action-packed, crazy, wild spot festy match. I mean, Kalisto's Salida del Sol off the top of the ladder that's one of the craziest spots I've seen this year. It was insane. It's really amazing to think about that in an era where you would think we've seen just about everything, that they were able to do something that's truly amazing that hadn't really been done before. So, yeah, this was the match of the night for this particular pay-per-view. It's kind of sad that they kind of peaked with the first match, but it was fun, and it was a car wreck, and it was enjoyable, and the New Day won, which was great. And got to give Xavier Woods credit. He made the T in TLC now stands for trombone. Thank you. Thank you, Xavier Woods. So yeah, I really enjoyed this match. It was action packed and crazy and wild, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. So and also by being the first match on the card, it benefited from not having anything outshine it beforehand. I felt like Dean and Bray ran into that problem last year, where they were a TLC match in the main event, having to follow tables matches and a ladder match and stuff like that. And Sheamus and Roman kind of ran into that problem here, where they had to follow a tables match and a ladder match, and they're main eventing with a TLC match. And it was like, okay. Yeah, kind of a tall order to live up to there, but it's the nature of these overly gimmick pay-per-views, unfortunately. Damn you, TNA, for starting it with Lockdown. I'll never forgive you for that. But anyway, second match was Rusev versus Ryback. It was it was what it was. It was a cool down match after the hot opener. Rusev won, which I was fine with. No problem there. Next was the chairs match, Jack Swagger versus Alberto Del Rio for the U.S. title. This match was awkward as fuck, and the problem is I'm not blaming the guys involved. I'm blaming the gimmick itself, because to me, chair shots should be match enders, and if you're doing a match that has pinfall submissions and they're smacking each other with steel chairs the entire time, to me, the match shouldn't last that long. It's just awkward. It diminishes the impact of the chair shot, and it just becomes kind of a farce after a while. So, no, I was not a fan of this match. To me, it would have been better if it was just a regular match. And that's the thing where the gimmick gets in the way. There was no reason for this to be a chairs match, and it felt like the chair spots, it felt like they were like forcing them onto the match. And it's like, well, it's a chairs match, so we got to use them, so whackety whack whack. And I'm like, if this was just a regular match, it probably would have been fine. It also doesn't help that Del Rio is just boring as fuck now that he's back in the WWE. He looks so unhappy, by the way. Like, that guy looks miserable. You can see it in his face, like he's not enjoying what he's doing right now. But, you could have stayed in Lucha Underground and kept being awesome, but okay. And Jack Swagger, they've done so little with him for so long that I don't think the fans really care about him all that much. So, going into it, you didn't have a whole lot of intrigue. I'm glad they stopped the Mex America thing, because that gimmick was not working at all. And, this match, it was just awkward as fuck. That's really all there is to say about it. It was just awkward as fuck. Alberto won, which, sure, okay, I didn't really care, but, next after that, I believe, was the tables match. The 4-on-4 tables match, elimination style, the Wyatt family versus the ECW old guys. And all I'm going to say about this is thank God the Wyatts went over. Not only went over, but they destroyed them. What was it, like... one elimination on the Wyatt side, and all 4 members of ECW old guy retirement home team were eliminated. I'm like, there you go. They made the heel monster faction look like monsters and make them look dominant and make them look unbeatable. And then the next night on Raw, they destroyed them again in a match that was better. I thought the match they had on Raw the next night was much better. And the Wyatts beat them again and look dominant doing it. I'm like, there you go. Guys, was that really so hard? Make the Wyatts look like monsters and unbeatable, like an unbeatable force. It's really not that hard. The Dudley Boys, Rhino, and definitely Tommy Dreamer do not need to be made to look good at this stage of their careers. They're winding down. Their best days are behind them. The Wyatts are the ones that you need to invest into your future, and you need them to look credible, dominant, and strong. And you put them together, and they feel like they should be this believable, unstoppable monster faction, but then they do things like feed them to Undertaker and Kane, and it looked like they were going to feed them to the Dudley Boys, and they didn't do it, thank God. And it was like, yeah, just make them look strong. I was like, that's completely fine. So as far as booking goes, the tables match gets an A for me. My only knock is that I would have just had the Wyatts completely eliminate them all together and not get any eliminations on the Wyatt side of things. I was like, no, they just fucking kill them. Just full-on squash match. Just make them look like shit. And it'll shock people. It's kind of like when Lesnar destroyed Cena at SummerSlam. It was one of the best booked matches in years because it legitimately shocked people. It was like, holy shit, John Cena, unbeatable Superman John Cena just got destroyed by Brock Lesnar. Holy shit. And... I was happy to see the Wyatts at least booked somewhat competently 2 nights in a row. That was like, okay, thank you. Like I said, not that hard. I don't know why they thought it was that hard, but it's one of those cases where, like, sometimes you make it harder on yourselves than it needs to be. But, so that was that match. Then moving right along, I'm trying to remember what was next. I know there was another match. The Intercontinental title. Kevin Owens versus Dean Ambrose. Solid match. Perfectly solid. Dean Ambrose won the title, which was a little surprising, but pleasant surprise, I guess. I mean, for a title that I'm not really all that invested in at this point because WWE is not really giving me a reason to be invested in it for so long. But, you got 2 guys that are talented and that are likable, and you put them together. They had a match, and it was solid. And Okay, cool. I mean, granted, I will knock Kevin Owens because I know it's a problem with wrestling across the board, but I seem to notice it the most with Kevin Owens. He does all these big moves, and he never beats anybody with them. And I'm like, dude, you're just making the moves look like shit. I don't know if that's Kevin doing that or if that's whoever's putting the matches together doing that, but like he did the that rolling senton off the top that Mr. Kennedy does, or Mr. Anderson. And to me, that's a move that should be like instant death. That should be a killer. He did it on Dean, and Dean kicked out. I'm like, dude, you're making your move look like shit. And like that spinning superplex that he does. He never beats anybody with it, so it just makes the move look like shit. And I'm like, Kevin, you're not going over anyway. You're not retaining the title. Don't make your moves look like shit, too. I mean, you know? It's just like... I seem to notice it more with Kevin Owens than most other guys, but it's a problem across the board with wrestling, and I wish guys would be more mindful of that. It's like, maybe I should save that for a rainy day when I need a big finish or something, or if I'm going to use it, maybe I shouldn't have anybody kick out of it except on special occasions or something like that. But you know, minor nitpick on what was otherwise a solid match. Charlotte versus Paige was another match that was awkward as fuck because it was like they couldn't decide who the heel was. Because it was like... Because Paige has been so unlikable in this whole build-up. I mean, referencing her dead brother and everything, and like betraying people and being a bitch and all this other stuff, that I didn't feel sorry for her that Charlotte cheated to beat her, but Charlotte's acting like a jerk, so... it makes me not want to cheer her, so it's like you really have this story being told with no likable characters, and it's like, okay. So, it just came off as really awkward rather than a legitimately good match. But, you know, the character development with Charlotte is being handled moderately well, and I like that they're finally putting some character development into the Divas division. And Becky Lynch is obviously going to play a role in this, and I think anything you can give Becky Lynch, I think, is a good thing. And Sasha's slowly being built up along the way. She got a win on the pre-show over Becky Lynch, so it feels like Sasha's being built up by winning in the background. She's not like a major focus, but she keeps winning matches, so it's like she's eventually going to get pushed to the title at some point. So I don't know where that's ultimately going to lead, but they've got some stuff to play with there in the future. So this match wasn't... It was... you know, again, the effort was there, but it's just not... Like, the flow of the story just wasn't there, but there's potential for better stuff down the road, so I'll let it slide. And then after that, we got the main event, Roman Reigns versus Sheamus, which... the problem was that the fans didn't give a shit. That was really the main problem. When they started chanting CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then when they started chanting We Want Cena, and the other half of the crowd chanting Cena sucks, it was like, oh my god, this is dark times here, man. We're having the crowd we're having half the fans asking for Cena to come back. That's how bad this is. And, you know, it's like I always say, when you have a protagonist that people don't care about, and you have an antagonist that people don't care about, the story's not going to work. It doesn't matter what they do to each other. And the main event was one of those matches that if you watched it on mute, it probably wouldn't seem as bad. But when you watch it with the sound on and you see the crowd's just not invested, and it was just kind of like, you know, whatever. Okay, Sheamus cheats to win, which I do like that. The League of Nations interference actually led to the loss, because, you know, if this were Cena, it'd be like, oh, he would have fought them all off and won it with one arm tied behind his back. But although it begs the question, why didn't Sheamus just have them interfere right from the moment the bell rang? And just, you know, it's like, yeah, you would have saved yourself a beating. I'm just saying. It's no DQ, so it's not like, you know, you would have gotten any punishment for it. But, the authorities, you're in their pocket, so it's not like they're going to reprimand you. So, you know, you could have cheated right from the start. But anyway, so they did the match. Sheamus retained. And then Roman Reigns, after being screwed so many times, just fucking snapped and beat the crap out of the League of Nations, beat the ever-living dog shit out of Triple H, and that was the ending to the pay-per-view. And there have been mixed feelings on the ending to this pay-per-view. I liked it, and the reason I liked it was... And this comes from being in the Cena era for so long. I'm so used to seeing Cena either win, or when he loses, he'll either act like a child like he did with Kevin Owens, where he's like, well, I was going to come out and congratulate you, but now you talk shit, and now I don't like you, blah, 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 you're just a blah, 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 blah. He's like, he acts like an 8-year-old, and so he either does that, or he'll drop poopy on them, because, or, he'll talk about how he'll just wash the dirt off and just pick himself back up and get right back on that horse, and Charles Cena, I'm big Mega Man hero, blah, 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 and all that shit. And we're so used to the losses either having minimal effect or no effect on him that Roman, in a year where he got screwed out of the WrestleMania main event, he got screwed out of the Money in the Bank, he got screwed out of, he won the title at Survivor Series. Yeah, he won the title at Survivor Series, got screwed out of that. And then he got screwed again here. He finally was just like, fuck this. And he snapped, and he just took it out on all the people that have screwed him over. And that worked. It was like, oh my God, character development. He's just like, I've had it up to here with this shit. And it was just refreshing to see a babyface character get screwed over and get fucking pissed. And just get, this is bullshit. I'm sick and tired of your bullshit. And the beating he gave Triple H was just, it got nasty at points. Maybe it went a little too long, but because one of my knocks on Triple H is that his segments tend to go a little too long. My prime example is the segment where this was back in 2005 when he turned on Ric Flair, and they felt the need to have the beating go on for like 3 segments. It was ridiculous how long it went. It got to a point where it was like, oh, they're building a story to, okay, this is a farce. So Triple H has a tendency to kind of let things drag, but overall, I thought the ending came off fine, and I thought it gave Roman a little bit more of a spark, and it really led in nicely to the next night on Raw, where, like I said, this was one of the best episodes of Raw they've done in a while, possibly the best one of 2015. Now, clearly, by having both a title change and the inclusion of Vince McMahon, they were definitely in panic mode. That was clear as day. That's what they were doing. The ratings have been dropping. The show hasn't been very good lately. They were clearly trying to shake things up and go. They went into panic mode and just tried to throw like big things out there. But for the one night, and I don't know how they're going to follow up on this going forward, but for the one night, I thought it worked. They gave Roman some obstacles to overcome. They included Vince, which made things feel bigger than they were before. And then they did this main event that was much better than the TLC match the night before. And this one didn't have any gimmicks beyond the stipulations of if Roman doesn't win, he's going to get fired, which we all knew Roman was going to win the title. But, title changes on TV are so rare nowadays that it actually felt like a big deal. And the way they handled the story the next night on Raw, it made Sheamus at least more interesting in the bad guy role, and it made Roman more interesting in the babyface role. They built their story throughout the night. They did the match. The match actually mattered and was exciting to watch, and you got your payoff with Roman winning the title and punching out Vince McMahon and doing all that other stuff. Now, is Roman going to work as champion going forward? I don't know. He still cuts shitty promos. I mean, that's something that they feel like... Why does he talk? Like, that's my whole thing. Why does Roman even talk to begin with? That's... Roman... Okay, on the stick, Roman works much better like he did in The Shield, where he was just the guy saying, like, one-liners. That's how Roman would work best, I think, on the stick. Him trying to cut long-winded promos where he makes jokes. Like, that segment he did with Sheamus the week before TLC was horrendous. I mean, it was so awkward and so bad, but... he works better. Like, I remember when he first turned babyface, and I think he was working with Sheamus as a tag partner, and Sheamus was like being his usual goofy dumbass babyface. He's like, oh, it's you and me in a handicap match, and it's 2-on-3 or whatever, and we don't have a partner, and blah 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 blah. Isn't that a shame? And he's smiling the whole time he's saying it because he's a doofus. And then Roman just looks at him and goes, 2-on-3? They need more guys. And I was like, stuff like that. Like, Roman should be that guy. He shouldn't be like The Rock or John Cena or mold him more like a Batista or somebody that's like this big badass motherfucker, like something like that. Don't make him like into a goofy superhero because that's not going to work. And but anyways, getting sidetracked here. I thought Raw this week was very good. It was a nice follow-up to the pay-per-view, even though it was clear that they were going into panic mode over the ratings and all the other things that have happened. But, Raw is very rarely any good. That anytime they do a good episode, I do want to bring attention to it. And I thought Raw this week was very good. And I'm, okay, let's see what they do going forward. Because I got to be honest, I'm looking ahead to WrestleMania. I have no idea what their main event is going to be. It could be Roman and Lesnar. It could be Roman and Cena. It could be Roman and Dean. I don't know. There's so many things they could do, and and at this point in time, I have absolutely no idea what their main event's going to be. And it's actually, in a way, it's actually exciting because it's like, all right, they kind of have free range to do whatever they want. So let's see what they do with it, and hopefully what they do is good. So Royal Rumble's going to be starting up soon, so we'll probably know more as the weeks lead into the Royal Rumble. But overall, TLC, kind of a meh show with like one really good ladder match, couple of good booking things here and there, and a really strong ending post-match to the main event. And then it led into a Raw that was one of the better episodes of Raw this year. So overall, WWE got out of the weekend unscathed on that front. TLC could have been a disaster of a show. Last year's TLC was a really bad show. This one was better and accomplished more. And the follow-up on Raw the next night was very good. So thumbs up for the WWE for their effort there. And continuing on with the WWE, they had their latest NXT TakeOver special on the WWE Network on Wednesday. This one emanating from London, which I didn't see live because I was at work, and the show started at 3 p.m. Eastern, so I didn't get to see it until later that night. So, but it didn't really make much of a difference. Nobody spoiled anything for me, and I treated it as if I was watching it live anyway. So, I don't want to sound like, all right, people are going to listen to me and think that I'm shitting on the show. I'm not shitting on it. So when I say this, please don't get mad at me. It was probably the weakest TakeOver special to date. And I think that's largely because the bar got set so high that, eventually one of them's gonna not live up to that high watermark. But overall, it was still a pretty good show. It was not a bad show by any means. It's just it didn't leave as much of an impact as a lot of the other TakeOver specials did. It didn't really set up anything or have any major payoffs. There were no title changes at all. Big moments. None of the matches, except for maybe the main event, none of the matches were really like match of the year contenders or anything like that. Like nothing. It just felt like nothing big happened on this show. It was just kind of a bunch of good matches, and that was the show. And not a whole lot in the way of story development or big moments, big payoffs, or anything like that. It was just, it was just a bunch of really good matches. That's really all the show had, and that's not a bad thing. That's still better than most other wrestling shows that you see nowadays. And like I said, the matches on the show themselves were really good. It just felt like there wasn't a whole lot going on other than that. It was just, and I do look for more things other than high star ratings. And if that's not clear from my previous reviews, but I'm always interested in seeing where the story goes from here, or feeling like the match caused some kind of major development or was a major payoff or something like that. And I just didn't feel like that happened here. Again, beyond just having really good matches. But, like I said, the matches were good, pretty much from start to finish. Nothing bad happened. That's for damn sure. And overall, it was a really solid show overall. It's just probably the weakest TakeOver special to date. Which, again, I mean, that's like being the worst Beatle at this point. It's like, yeah, you can say Ringo Starr is the worst Beatle, but he's still one of the Beatles. It's still, this TakeOver special was still pretty damn good overall. It was still an enjoyable wrestling show overall. It's just not as good as the previous TakeOver specials. But with that, let's jump right into it. Opening match was Emma versus Asuka. Asuka is very charismatic, like very, very likable. She's got this infectious kind of, like, she looks like she has fun doing what she's doing, but she's also a badass. It's really weird. She's kind of very colorful, and she's just very likable. And I thought her and Emma had a pretty damn good match. The pacing was a little touch and go at points. It felt like it was getting hot, and then they cut it off, and then they kind of got it hot again, and then they kind of cut it off, and it was so maybe the pacing could have been a little bit better, but overall I thought the match was really good. And the ending, I thought they were going to do some kind of fluky screw job thing, and then Asuka actually was able to overcome it and get the win, which I was like, oh, thank God. But yeah, Asuka, she's being built up very well, and she could help fill the void left behind, because when they brought up Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky all at the same time, it did leave a big void in the women's division. It left Bayley without too much else to work with beyond, I mean, yeah, there's Alexa Bliss and there's Carmella, but they're not, and I like them, but they're not up to the same level set by Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky. So Asuka being built up definitely gives the division a lot more to work with and stuff like that. And hopefully Emma can be given more to do, because she's actually a really good worker herself, and maybe they can start taking her a little bit more seriously. So overall, it was a good opening match, just a really good singles match and a good way to kick off the show. Next up was the Tag Team Championship. It was Enzo and Cass challenging the team of Dash and Dawson, and solid tag match once again. Enzo and Cass is like, if they ever win the tag titles, it's going to be a big moment, because they're kind of the tag team equivalent to Sami Zayn, where they keep getting close, but they just can't win that big one. And I think they're such sympathetic favorites and so likable and so entertaining that I think that if they ever do win the titles, it's going to be treated like a big deal. But and I will say this, I do love that they changed the opening. Their entrance, they change the opening bit up every single time they go out there. I know I've said this before, but I want to stress it. Why, things like the New Age Outlaws annoy me when they do the exact same fucking thing every single week. It's annoying as fuck. Enzo and Cass could easily turn into that, and they probably will when they go to the main roster, which is the sad thing. But in NXT, they actually changed the bit up and to reflect their mood. Like, they were angry. These guys hurt Cass, and they did this and that and the other, and they beat us up, and we're not happy. Fuck those guys. And they reflected their promo to be angry and passion. It's like, ooh, anger and passion and emotions and shit like that. Who wants that shit? And the match was enjoyable. That's really all there is to say about it. Enzo and Cass didn't win the tag titles, unfortunately, but I feel like Jordan and Gable are going to be built up to get the tag titles, so it makes sense that they would win it off of heels, and I have no problem with that, because I think Jordan and Gable they're quickly becoming one of my favorite tag teams in the business right now. So can we get to that title match at some point soon? I'd be happy. I wouldn't mind that at all. So, yeah, that was the tag title match. Then we got Baron Corbin versus Apollo Crews. It was an okay match. I don't know. Corbin's matches had been getting better lately, so this one was kind of a step down from what he had been doing. Crews didn't quite come off like the great specimen that he has been lately, and I think maybe he had to slow down to work at Baron Corbin's pace. I don't know. But match was okay. It wasn't terrible. It was just kind of like, oh, that was ordinary. Corbin won, which was a surprise, but also a nice surprise, because Corbin could have easily turned into what Tyler Breeze turned into, where it's like, yeah, he wins all the time on TV, but he never wins at the TakeOver specials. And Corbin could have easily, it was kind of starting to turn into that. He lost to Joe. He lost the tag team tournament, and it was like, he's kind of turning into that. It's like, oh, yeah, he wins all the time on TV, but he doesn't win at the TakeOver specials. And here he did, so it was fine. And now Apollo Crews, the undefeated streak is broken. It gives him room to grow and develop as a character. It's like, all right, where does he go from here? I'd love to know. And it's like, tell stories. And that's what NXT does better than the main roster show. They tell stories and book their guys better and make you care more, and it's great, and I like that. So we'll see where all that goes going forward. Then we had the NXT Women's Championship match, Bayley versus Nia Jax, which, again, kind of like, this serves as a microcosm of what I said about this special as a whole, and comparing it to the other TakeOver specials. This is by far the weakest women's title match they've ever done at the TakeOver specials. But it was still pretty solid. Like, for what it was still pretty solid, with Bayley playing the scrappy underdog babyface and Nia Jax playing the monster. Now, with that type of dynamic, I would have loved it if it had turned into something like Sting and Vader. back in the day, because as I've said a million times, the Sting Vader matches are some of my favorite matches of all time. It was the first series of matches I ever got sucked into, where I was like, I need to see Sting Vader's on the card. I need to see it. It was one of those, and unfortunately, the problem is that Nia Jax is no Vader. Bayley is comparable to Sting, but Nia Jax is not in any way comparable to Vader at this point, at least not yet. It felt like Bayley was like having the match around her, but she did a really good job of making Nia Jax look big, and that's something that kind of gets overlooked sometimes. But Bayley knew she was going to have to play underdog, and they worked the match around her, trying to overcome the much larger foe, and in making Nia Jax look big, it helped the match and made it better. Now, like I said, it's still the weakest women's title match that they've ever done at these TakeOver specials, but for what it was still pretty solid. And Bayley, give her a lot of credit. Because like I said, I'm still not sold on Nia Jax. I think she's still a little green, and she's not, this is the most impressive she's ever looked so far, and I think a lot of that came from Bayley, not just carrying her, but protecting her gimmick and making her look big. And I thought it came off really well, and even the closing sequence where she kept trying to lock in that front face lock chokehold thing, I thought came off really well. So overall, it was a good match. It was a good match, but still the weakest NXT Women's Title match that the TakeOver specials have done. So how do you judge it? Do you go more on the positive or do you go more on the negative? I tend to lean more towards the positive, but in any case, Bayley retained the title, which thank God, and we'll see how everything goes from there. But next up, we got the main event, Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe for the NXT title. Another great entrance from Finn Balor. I like the get-up, which was, I don't know, maybe I'm just, I don't really know for sure. It looked like kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like old school Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Or that Lon Chaney movie, the lost Lon Chaney movie, Terror Over Midnight or something, like London After Midnight, I think it was called. It kind of looked like an outfit from that movie. Again, I don't know for sure if that was the intention, but that's how it looked, with the top hat and the cape and everything. Again, very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or very, London After Midnight with Lon Chaney. But anyway, the match itself, hard-hitting, action-packed match. Finn Balor won. That's really all there is to say about it. It was a very good main event, exciting, action-packed, not one of the more memorable main events. It's not like, it didn't have the energy and the drama that Sami Zayn and Adrian Neville did last year. It didn't have the, the great character and story development that the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens match, the first one, had earlier this year. But, as a action-packed main event, it was good. It was very good, actually. It was the best match on the show. But again, it was another big win for Balor, which I swear they're setting up Balor versus Zayn, because we got Sami Zayn coming back. So that should be a really nice main event to have. But overall, it was just a very good main event. Like I said, not the most interesting story-wise or character-wise or dramatically, and it didn't really change anything going forward except giving Finn Balor another win. But for what it was very good and very exciting. So nice capstone to the TakeOver special. And one other thing I haven't talked about with the TakeOver special, I love the crowd. I know some people have been kind of critical of the way the crowd acted, singing songs and stuff, but I was like, they're into the wrestlers, and they're not. I didn't feel like that they were getting to a point where they were hijacking the show and just kind of acting like, they didn't care or anything. It's like, no, they're like singing songs to Bayley and Cass and stuff like that. I'm like, no, they're excited. They're enjoying what they're seeing. So I was completely fine with it. And it was a great energy, different atmosphere than you normally get out of American audiences. So I kind of like that. It felt different. I like things that are different. And, because one of the problems with the WWE and wrestling in general, actually, is that so many of the venues look the same, and they dress up the venues to look exactly the same, so it's really hard to get different atmospheres and different vibes from show to show. So largely, like, the only thing that really separates the atmospheres of the shows anymore are the crowds, and I thought this crowd was very different, but very exciting, very receptive to what they got, and it overall made for an even better show. So I was completely fine with the crowd, and overall I was fine with this TakeOver special. It was really, really good. Just not as good as previous TakeOver specials, but it's still, like, if I were going to do a top 10 list of the top 10 shows of the year, I'm sure this TakeOver special would still be on there. It was still, like I said, it was a really, really good show. So, just, another really solid TakeOver special, and, I'm really excited to get Sami Zayn back, so I think that'll bring a lot of life into it. I would think Hideo Itami would be coming back fairly soon. I don't know exactly when, but I think once they're back in the mix, and, they've already got good things going. They've got Asuka being built up in the Divas division, and they've got plenty of new tag teams to work with, Jordan and Gable specifically. So I think NXT is like, once they get a couple hands back and they've got all the things that they've got in place and they start the ball rolling on some of those things, I think they got some good stuff. I think NXT is going to continue to be good. So again, thumbs up. Really solid show, and I'm excited to see what NXT does in the future. And let's wrap up the wrestling reviews with Ring of Honor's final iPay-per-view of 2015, Final Battle. How to feel? It's actually kind of similar to how I felt about TLC. Most of the card is kind of take it or leave it. Not a whole lot of truly great stuff, but there were two matches that I thought were very, very good. And they're the two matches that I knew were going to be very, very good and were the reason I decided to check out the pay-per-view. And those two matches were enough to make the show worth it for me. Rest of the card, like I said, kind of take it or leave it. Opening match, it was the All Night Express versus the Briscoe Brothers versus the Young Bucks, and by God almighty, Christ on a cracker, what else can I say at this point about the Young Bucks that I haven't already said? I'm just beating a dead horse at this point. I am begging and I am pleading with those two guys to learn some fucking tag team psychology, because there is charisma there. I'm not going to say they're not charismatic. They're very athletic, very gifted in that department, and if they could just find a way to put it together and make their matches more compelling beyond just hitting 8 billion super kicks and flipping all over the place and doing all that weird shit that doesn't make any sense, they'd be great, but they don't do any of that, so I don't care. And all of their matches look exactly the same to me as a result. The only matches I've seen them have this year that were like different and were like kind of cool were they had a match with Roppongi Vice in Japan that was well worked and well done. And they had a match on Ring of Honor TV where AJ came in as a substitute and they faked an injury and did all that weird shit, which was a little fluky, but it was like, at least it was different from all their other matches. So very few of their matches leave an impression on me because it's like the Michael Bay syndrome. They just go out there and they just do fancy shit that doesn't mean anything, and at the end of the day, there's no substance. So again, I'm going to say that about every single Young Bucks match until they change things. And I sure when I review Wrestle Kingdom 10, I'm going to say the exact same thing, because I know what to expect out of those two guys at this point. And I know a lot of people love their matches. I personally am. It's the same fucking match every single time, and I'm sick and tired of it. But anyway, second match, it was Dalton Castle versus Silas Young. I'm so sick to death of this feud. It's just end the fucking feud, please. And the ending was really confusing because they did the whole bit where the last match they had, the winner, if Silas won, he would get Dalton Castle's boys. And he did win, so he got the boys, and now the boys are on his side, and he's made them into real men, and the boys actually feel, it seemed like they were siding with Silas legitimately now, and they helped him win this match. But then after the match, they turned on Silas and joined back up with Dalton, and I'm like, so wait a minute, how does any of this work? Aren't they still like contractually set to be with Silas? Isn't that part of the deal now, or what? And also, if they were siding with Dalton, why did they help Silas win the match? I don't understand. Like, none of that made any sense. It was I just want this feud to be over because it's over. It's stayed long past its welcome. Moose versus Michael Elgin was a solid match. I think maybe I was expecting a little bit more out of that, kind of like Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews from the TakeOver special, although I thought this match was better. Just a really cool knockdown, drag-out fight between two big bruisers, and they did some cool stuff towards the end with the Elgin Bomb and stuff like that, but it was maybe not as cool as I thought it would be. Maybe I expected a little too much out of it. I figured Elgin would win because he's lined up to face Lethal in Japan for the ROH title, so I figured that they'd want to keep him looking good. And Moose, I've said it before, I do like Moose, and I think he's developing into something. And one of the reasons I like him is that he's so unlike all the other. You wouldn't expect him to be a Ring of Honor wrestler because he plays against the type, but he's got this weird innate charisma to him, and they've pushed him, and he's just a big muscled up bruiser guy, and they don't normally make stars out of guys like that. If they do make stars out of big power guys, it's normally somebody like a Samoa Joe who's got like a mixed martial arts type of aspect to him that fits in better with the Ring of Honor crowd. But Moose completely plays against type, and he's developing quite nicely. So overall, match was okay. Nothing overly special, but it was okay. Then we got one of my favorite matches on the show, Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly in their big grudge match. Adam Cole won, but it looks like they're setting up something bigger down the road, and this would be a good time to do like a gimmick match of some kind. But I really enjoyed this match because it wasn't clean and it didn't look overly choreographed. It looked like two guys that were legitimately angry with each other. And yeah, there were some fancy moves traded in, but it had like this passionate type of feel to it where both guys just seemed angry, especially Kyle towards Adam. And I think that made it feel more believable that it wasn't just perfectly choreographed moves. It was actually like this, it felt like it wasn't completely clean. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. It's kind of like that, although not as good as this, it's kind of like that Bret Hart-Austin I Quit match from WrestleMania 13 where that match wasn't completely clean or perfectly choreographed, but it just looked like two guys that were beating the crap out of each other. And this match had that kind of aspect to it that I really liked. And I thought it was just a very nice, hard-hitting, exciting grudge match. And they're obviously going to do more going forward, so we'll see how it goes. But overall, one of the more enjoyable matches on the card, I thought. And moving right along from there, we got the six-man tag. It was Sabin and the Addiction versus ACH, Matt Sydal, and Alex Shelley. Pretty much just a standard six-man. I think, unfortunately, the WWE has made me sick of six-man tags because they do them every single week on Raw, and it doesn't mean anything. So, but in any case, this match was okay for what it was. It was, again, nothing special, but it was okay for what it was. Then there was the TV title match, Roderick Strong versus Bobby Fish. Roderick Strong is like the most unengaging wrestler ever. He's just, I'm sorry, I just can't get invested in the guy. He has good matches from time to time when he's working with somebody I really like Jay Lethal or Kazuchika Okada, who has become one of my favorite guys in the business, by the way. When he's working with somebody I really like, typically it works out well. He worked Tyler Black and Tyler's final match in Ring of Honor, and I thought that match was really good. But that was more because of Tyler than him. But when he's working with somebody like Bobby Fish, who's good, but he's a tag team wrestler, typically, working with Red Dragon, and he's not one of the more, he's not like a main event superstar type, at least not even at the Ring of Honor level. He's not like one of the top main event guys. He's, when you look at Red Dragon, Kyle O'Reilly is probably the better one of the two. So, Roderick, given his history with Ring of Honor, you would expect him to be the one to elevate like a Bobby Fish and make something good out of that. And the match was just kind of, it was there. It was, it was what it was. It looks like Roddy's turning heel, which I'm just going to shrug my shoulders at that. Meh. Whatever. So that match, it was what it was. It was a TV title match. That's all I got. Next up was the tag team title match, War Machine versus The Kingdom, where the War Machine winning the titles in quick fashion, but it felt like they had to go home early because Matt Taven got legitimately hurt, so they just kind of rushed into the finish. But that's unfortunate for Matt Taven, but the story implication of it, or like the part of it that kind of worked out fortuitously for the story, is that it made War Machine look dominant and big, kind of like a Road Warrior type or a Demolition type or something like that, where they just look dominant. And I think that's good for them, and hopefully they can establish something going forward with them being like this really dominant bruiser tag team. Because, again, much like what I said about Moose, I like War Machine because they don't look like guys that you would see pushed in Ring of Honor. So they instantly stand out more because of it, and I like those guys. I think there's something to them, and I'm happy they won the titles. I'm not happy that Matt Taven got hurt. That's unfortunate, but the match... It had to be rushed, so it wasn't anything too memorable. But overall, I'm happy with who won the belts, and hopefully it leads to something good going forward. So, they're going to be facing the All Night Express because the All Night Express won the opening tag match. But it was what it was. But now let's move on to the main event: AJ Styles versus Jay Lethal, which had a lot of hype surrounding it. At least for me personally, it had a lot of intrigue. It was like, oh, I want to see AJ and Jay Lethal go at it. That's going to be a really good match. Unfortunately, AJ got injured over in Japan, and he had to, basically be taken out of the world, the tag team tournament that they were doing over there, and it made me worried. It's like, okay, he's got this match with Lethal, and he's got a match with Nakamura coming up at the Dome show, and it's like, is AJ going to be able to go here? He looked fine here. I thought AJ worked very hard here and did really well working with Lethal. I thought the match they had was terrific. I thought they had a great match, and I would even go as far to say it's probably Ring of Honor's match of the year, at least the best Ring of Honor match that I've seen this year. I really enjoyed it. It was very good, very exciting, great main event. They did some different things that I didn't expect. They did a table spot that came out of nowhere. A part of the problem with table spots is that once you set up the table, you know somebody's going through the table, and there's not a whole lot of drama there or intrigue. It's like you just know that somebody's going to go through the table. But like Bret Hart and Diesel at Survivor Series 95, when you don't set up the table and somebody goes through the table, it's a big shock. And it's like, whoa, what happened? And they did something like that here, and I really liked it. They did that spot where Lethal was doing a suicide dive, and AJ did a springboard from the guardrail to hit his flying forearm to break up the suicide dive, and that looked really cool. A very tricky spot to do, but they hit it about as well as they could. It looked really good. AJ kicked out of the lethal combination, or the lethal injection, sorry. He kicked out of the lethal injection, and that made me go, oh my god, AJ might win the belt. And then Lethal hit the cradle pile driver to taunt Jerry Lynn, who was there doing commentary, and had made comments that AJ was going to win the belt. So to taunt Jerry Lynn, Jay Lethal hit the cradle pile driver, which led to the victory. And overall, it was I thought a great match. Probably, like, if I had to do my top 10 matches for December, which I'm going to do in the next video, because it'll be my final video of the year, but this would probably be my number one. I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was very, very good. Very exciting. Lethal retained, which not too much of a shock, because he's going to be defending the belt against Elgin in Japan, but... yeah, it's good for him. I mean, Lethal has really become a top star there for Ring of Honor. He's really like their best guy right now. So he's the perfect choice to carry the belt. And overall, great main event for the show. It really ended the show on a high note in that regard. Just to have a really exciting contest that continues Jay Lethal's build is like, oh my god, he's like the unbeatable champion. I look forward to seeing what else they do with him in 2016. So... overall, Final Battle, like I said, most of the show was take it or leave it, but you did get those two really, really good matches. And for me, that was enough to enjoy the show at least a little bit. I mean, Cole and O'Reilly and Styles and Lethal, I thought were two very, very good matches. Really, very good. And I'd say overall, that kind of made it Ring of Honor's best pay-per-view of the year so far. Or, well, so far it's the end of the year. But of all the shows I watched this year, this one was probably my favorite one that they did. So, at the very least, you got two really good matches out of it, and I can't fault them for that. And now let's wrap this video up with my spoiler-filled review of Star Wars The Force Awakens. So, if you have not seen the movie, and you do not want to have it spoiled for you, now's the time to turn the video off. This is the final warning. Spoilers aplenty here. Okay. You turn the video off? Okay. Alright. Now, I'm going to talk about the film specifics. Like I said, I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was very, very good. It was not perfect. And I'm going to start off by talking about the negatives, just so I can close out with the positives. And go on a high note, you know. The problems with the movie, my biggest one right off the bat, did you need another Death Star? Really? Was that really necessary? Was it really necessary to have a third Death Star? You can almost count the droid control ship from Phantom Menace as kind of like the big base that needs to be blown up at the end. So you can almost say that they've done this 4 times. And to me, it was completely unnecessary because the movie wasn't really about the Star Killer base. It wasn't about that at all. It was about both factions warring against each other, trying to find the map to Luke Skywalker. That was what the story was all about. The opening crawl doesn't even mention the Star Killer base. So it came the fuck out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, the end of the movie, there has to be a starship battle where they blow the big planet base up, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, sure, fine, whatever. And really, I think it was because, I'm going to take a guess, I think it was because they thought that if they didn't have a big spaceship battle at the end, people would be disappointed. I wish they had had more faith in what they had, and I'll talk more in specifics when I talk about the characters and the story, but I thought they had enough there to have a worthy climax without spaceship battles. And actually, if you look at the 2 previous trilogies, what was the best movie, or what's the movie that everybody says was the best from the original trilogy? It was Empire Strikes Back. It doesn't really end with a big spaceship battle. It's at the most, it's the Falcon running away and trying to get away, but it's not like a big full-fledged battle. It's just about, it was more about the characters, the development, the good guys getting away, Luke finding out who his father is, and Han being captured and all that stuff. It was more about those elements and not so much about the spaceship battle, which was really just the Falcon running away. It wasn't really like a big... It wasn't on par with like the big spaceship battle from the previous film or Return of the Jedi, but it worked. It was different and unique to itself, and it worked in a completely different way. And if you look at the prequels, the one that everybody says is the best one is Revenge of the Sith. To the film's credit, did not shoehorn a big spaceship battle at the end. They did it all at the beginning, which was fine, and then at the end you get the 2 lightsaber battles, and that's your big climax. They didn't really have to shoehorn a big spaceship battle at the end. The movie didn't need it, and it's the best one of the original trilogy. And I felt like this movie, with the story and the characters that they had in place, there was no reason to have a Death Star. I was like, that whole thing was just superfluous, and actually, I liked the new characters so much that I was more interested in seeing what they were doing. That whenever they cut back to the spaceship battle and the blow up the Death Star type of thing, I was like, can we go back to what the characters are doing? I want to know what they're doing, because this doesn't really matter to me. And yeah, it's just, I wish that, I don't know if it was J.J. Abrams, I don't know if it was Kazdan, I don't know if it was Disney, I don't know who it was, but who made the decision to have another Death Star in there, but I wish they had more faith in what they had and realized it's like, oh, maybe we don't need that, and maybe the movie would work just fine on its own. And because I felt like there were enough story and character motivations to keep the characters on the base without having to turn it into a fucking Death Star and do that whole retread again. And really, it was indicative of the major complaint that a lot of people have about this movie, that it is, in a lot of ways, it borrows a lot from A New Hope, like a lot, which I said was a concern of mine in the preview, and I was like, yeah, they kind of did. Fortunately, I still like the characters, I still like the banter, I still liked a lot of the other things that were going on, but yeah, they borrowed a little too much from A New Hope, at least in terms of how the story plays out. And to me, it's like, if you had cut out the Death Star, which they even did a whole scene making fun of it, it's like, well, we can just fly in and blow it up, right? I mean, there's got to be a way we can just do that. And it's almost like they were making fun of it. It's like, yeah, it's stupid that we're doing another Death Star, but we're doing one. And they even did kind of a bit where it was like, oh, it's like the Death Star, but bigger. And I was like, oh, fuck. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of the new Death Star. It felt like just tacked on and didn't really need to be there. And and if you had cut that out of the movie, A, you wouldn't miss it, and B, I think a lot of the comparisons to A New Hope would have been downplayed a little bit. I think people wouldn't have been, because that was one of the things that people complained about, was that it's a little too much like A New Hope, and it is, but I think if you had dropped that element, it would have played better and not been compared so heavily to A New Hope. But so that was a major problem. The other main problem And it's not even really a main problem. It's more of a minor thing, and it's really more the fault of the marketing than the movie itself. Captain Phasma does nothing. I mean, literally, the character does nothing. And when I saw they had cast Gwendolyn Christie, who plays one of my favorite characters in Game of Thrones, Brienne, I got excited. I thought she was going to be great. I'm like, oh my god, she's going to be like this ultimate mega warrior chrome trooper, and she's going to be great. And she didn't really do anything. Like, literally, she does nothing. She has no presence in the movie, and it's like, why'd you even go to the trouble of casting her? The character does nothing, and there's a point in the film where Finn, when he first gets the lightsaber, and they have that battle sequence at the castle, or like the hideout, or whatever that place was, he gets into a fight with a rando, out-of-nowhere stormtrooper that just happens to have an anti-lightsaber weapon. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I don't even know who this is. And I'm just kind of thinking, it's like, it probably would have made more sense if they'd put Captain Phasma in that spot. And, at least it would have been more acceptable. You kind of established this character, you put her in the marketing, and presumably you cast Brienne because she's an imposing fighter, and you would think that they would have taken advantage of that. And I think it would have made more sense if Finn had done battle with her. And, instead of just fighting this completely random stormtrooper that just happens to have anti-lightsaber weaponry, I'm like, why is he the only stormtrooper that has that weapon, and why would he have that weapon? I don't know. It's just... that was just weird. So I wish they had given Captain Phasma more to do. She was the one new character that just failed to leave an impression because they didn't really give her anything to do. So that was disappointing, but other than that, like I said, it's all positives from there. I thought the movie was very, very good. Of course, it's also great to hear John Williams' music. That goes without saying, but... the main thing I really liked about the movie were the new characters, because I said if the new characters don't work, the movie's not going to work. It's the same thing I said actually about, weird comparison here, but I said the exact same thing about the new Muppet movie when that came out a few years ago. And I saw that Walter was going to be this big focus in the film, and he's like, the new Muppet, Walter. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but if he doesn't work, the movie's not going to work. It's kind of like to bring back bad memories about The Phantom Menace. The new characters didn't work, and because of that, the movie doesn't work. I mean, Jar Jar Binks, enough said. Among other things of why that movie didn't work, but the new characters just failed to connect with the audience. And here, the classic character, except for Chewie and Han, the old characters really take a back seat. But I was fine with that because I like the new characters. Rey was great. The way they established her backstory and everything, again, largely through visuals, not a whole lot of dialogue explaining where she comes from or anything, and they really just showed a day in her life and what her life is like. And she left an impression because of it. Of course, it also helps that the acting's really good. The acting in this movie is actually quite good, to the point that I'm like, oh, I forgot what good acting was like in a Star Wars movie. This is great. And she was very likable, very good, strong female character, which easily could have been kind of one-dimensional, but no, she's very enjoyable. Finn was great. I really liked him. He has a nice arc going from fallen stormtrooper to hero, and he grows throughout the course of the film. I like the banter between him and Rey and their relationship. Their interactions are great. Actually, one of the things I really like about this movie, they really took the time to make the movie funny, which I liked. Because Star Wars is supposed to have humor. It's supposed to be, it's supposed to be for kids. It's supposed to be accessible for everybody. And Phantom Menace tried to be funny, but it was funny on like a preschooler level, and it was just obnoxious. Here, the banter and the interactions with the characters, especially what Finn and Rey have with like Han and Chewie, was very good, and it was funny, and it was legitimately funny. And there were a couple of other moments, like there's a really funny moment where Kylo Ren, and I'll get to him in a minute, but he like flips out and he starts like cutting up this room and takes the lightsaber out and starts just throwing a complete fucking temper tantrum, and two stormtroopers are walking towards the room and they hear him flipping out, and they're like, nope, not going in there. And they, without saying a word, they just kind of go, all right, nope, going the other way. And it was really funny while also keeping the characters intact. Like Kylo Ren, all right, he's this rage-fueled, crazy person that's going through a lot of inner turmoil and was really upset about something that happened. But they created a really funny moment for it, and that's where a lot of the humor from Star Wars always came. It was from the interactions between the characters, and I thought a lot of the interactions were very good. BB-8 is adorable. I was a little worried about BB-8. It was like, if they make that thing annoying, the movie's not going to work. It's going to be Jar Jar all over again. But no, BB-8 was completely adorable. And again, yes, it's a retread of A New Hope that the droid is carrying something important that needs to get to the good guys. And but BB-8 was just so adorable that I was fine with it. And just, again, very lovable, very likable. And the actors did a great job of playing off that prop, because that was another great thing, is that it was great to see, even though there were CGI characters in there, some of them looked good, some of them did not look good. The Supreme Leader, Snoke, did not look good. But they do have an out because it was a hologram, so they have an out to fix that. It's like, maybe that's not what he looks like, and that's a Wizard of Oz type of thing that they're doing. And yes, I have heard the theory that Supreme Leader Snoke is Darth Plagueis, which I'd be fine with that. It was, it's a nice way to tie in the prequels, and because, the prequels do exist, and I don't want, they do exist, and any way you can kind of tie back to them and kind of make them more meaningful, I'd be okay with. I'd be fine with it. So if it turns out that he is Darth Plagueis, I think that'd be fine. And it's like, you couldn't say that like he was set up in a previous film, so he's not just some kind of out of nowhere bad guy. So it's like, okay, that's fine. I can live with that, but hopefully they manage to fix the way he looks in the future films, because he didn't look too good. But I know it's Andy Serkis, but he didn't. No, I wasn't a fan of the design or the animation of it. But again, it's a hologram, so they have some room to kind of play with it a little bit. But yeah, so the CGI characters were fine for the most part, but there was also an effort to make the movie look organic, and the sets look great, and the characters that weren't CGI look great. Chewie looks great, BB-8 looks great. This movie definitely looks more organic, which again is more along the lines of what you want out of a Star Wars movie. It just felt like we were back in that universe, which I really, really appreciated. But going back to the characters, Poe Dameron I thought was really great. My sister saw the movie and she said he's my new favorite character, and that's really surprising, because he kind of the new good guy characters, he's the one that kind of takes a back seat, but the actor was really good. He interacts well with BB-8. BB-8 is his droid. And I like the bromance that he kind of had going with Finn, where he actually names Finn, and it's like, what's your name? FN3427 or whatever. It's like, that's my stormtrooper name. It's the only name they ever gave me. It's like, screw that, I'm calling you Finn. And I really like their partnership there, and I hope they expand on that in the sequels. I'm like, yeah, I dig that. It's like, yeah, I kind of like their friendship, and when it comes down to is when you have characters that you care about, it makes those action sequences and those moments even better. Like the scene where Finn helps Poe break out and steal the TIE fighter and try to escape. That scene was great. And again, it plays in my whole thing. They didn't really need the starship battle at the end, because I thought the TIE fighter escape was great. I thought the Millennium Falcon TIE fighter chase was great. I thought the scene where the Resistance shows up to help the good guys at the I'm trying to remember that Maz Hanada's lair, her castle or hideout or whatever that was. The battle that takes place there, I thought that was great. So you didn't really need that last starship battle. I didn't think. I felt like I'd gotten my fill of good starship battles. So it's like, yeah, the only one that failed to leave an impression was the last one, unfortunately. But but anyway, it's, it really helps to make those scenes better when you have characters that you care about. And I felt like they did that. I felt like that was all, the characters were very likable. It was great having Han and Chewie interacting with them. I thought they slipped back into the roles, especially Harrison Ford. I thought he slipped back into the role great. And again, there was an effort to make it funny. There was an effort to stay true to the characters. And whenever the old characters did show up, and again, some of them don't show up until later in the movie, it hit me right in the feels. It hit me right in the feels. Like, it's like, aw. Like when Han and Leia reunited, I was kind of like, aw. And Leia was good. It was great seeing her again. And actually, there's a big moment coming up that I have to talk about. But C-3PO got a laugh when he came back. R2 played a nice little moment at the end where he reactivated and provided the rest of the map to show them where Luke is, which I have some theories about that. But, it was great seeing the old characters. And again, Chewie was Chewie, and he was great to himself. And, so the old characters were done right, but not at the expense of the new characters. And, the story's going to be about the new characters, so they needed to be the focus. And they worked. They were well cast. I liked them. I liked them a lot, and it was all very good. Now let's talk about Kylo Ren, who's the main new bad guy, and he was great. I really liked him as the villain. The thing I really liked, and I kind of touched up on it earlier, is that in comparing him to Darth Vader, and clearly he's a Darth Vader fanboy that's trying to live up to the legacy of Darth Vader. And they address this in the movie, actually, and he can't. And he's fearful that he can't. So he's got a lot of inner turmoil and rage. And in addition to some other things going on, which I'll touch up on in a second, Vader was in the old movies, Vader was very cold and calculating, very casually menacing. And actually, Vader's appearance in Star Wars Rebels recaptured this, which I really appreciated, where he's very, again, very casually menacing. Like, he will sentence people to their dooms and, say, oh, well, we need to do this and hurt these people and, blow this place up or choke that person out. But he doesn't do it with anger. He does it very casually. Yeah, you failed, so you die. And that great scene in the original film where he starts choking that one guy at the council table, he's like, I find your lack of faith disturbing. And he's so, confident in his powers and so, that he can afford to be casually menacing. And it's really great. But Kylo is different, where outwardly he appears like Darth Vader, but inside he's got all these inner turmoils and confidence issues. So he, flips out, and he's like, Vader is like ice. Kylo Ren is like fire. He's just a ball of rage waiting to explode. But he's trying to be like Darth Vader, but he hasn't quite achieved that level yet. And they do explain in the movie that he's not even fully trained yet. And I'll talk about that more when I talk about the lightsaber battle. But you get these moments where he'll just completely flip his shit. There's one scene where he takes his lightsaber and somebody gives him bad news, and he takes out his lightsaber and just starts ripping up a control panel and just wails on it, which I'm sure is going to become an internet meme at some point. But again, having that different character there made him more interesting, and then ultimately it's revealed in kind of a throwaway, but I like that it was a throwaway because I felt like if they tried to recreate I Am Your Father, it wouldn't go well. It would kind of be unintentionally funny, so I like that they just kind of gave it away as a piece of expository dialogue that Kylo Ren is the son of Han and Leia, and he was being trained by Luke to be a Jedi, and he fell from grace, got seduced from the dark side, destroyed whatever new Jedi order that Luke was trying to build, and that's why Luke went into hiding, because he felt guilty about what happened, and that his nephew's a bad mofo. And that added a lot to the film, even though I kind of knew it was coming, and we all kind of suspected that Kylo has some sort of ties to the original characters, whether it be Luke's son or Han's son or whatever. But you can sense it with Han, it ruined his life, where he went back into smuggling and swindling people because he couldn't deal with the tragedy of what happened to his son. So as he says in the film, I went back to the only thing I was ever good at, and it hurt Leia too, and it put a strain on their relationship. So what happened with Kylo, or Ben Solo, which is actually his name, really put a strain on the whole family and basically, helped rip everything apart. But it all builds to that final scene at the Starkiller base, where I highlight where there didn't really need to be there really did not need to be a starfighter battle there, or a Death Star or anything, is that Finn wanted to go back to the base because he wanted to save Rey. Which makes sense given how their relationship had built over the course of the film. Han wanted to go there and save his son and bring his son home and see if he can appeal to him and get him back. The Resistance and the First Order, which are the new factions here, which that's another kind of minor complaint. They didn't really do, and I know this is going to sound strange, they didn't do a good enough job of explaining how the government works, this new government. They say there's a republic and the Resistance is their army, and the First Order is kind of the last remnants of the Empire. And the last remnants of the Empire that's still trying to fight and take over and bring the Empire back, basically. But again, it's not really explained all that well. And what I was hoping for was that there would be no government, and that the conflict between the Empire and the Rebellion rip the galaxy apart, and the Resistance and the First Order, or whatever's left of those two factions, just trying to fight over land to try and establish a government, but they can't. And right now there is no ruling government. That's what I would have wanted out of it. And I thought, when you're on Jakku and you see the wrecked Star Destroyer and you see the wrecked AT-AT Walker, which is where Rey lives, which was great, I had it in my head that the whole galaxy was going to look like that. And so you just see wrecked starships and walkers and fighters everywhere. And the whole galaxy was just going to be plunged into anarchy by this point. But no, they say there's a republic, but they don't really explain that well how it works and everything. So I wish they had fleshed that out a little bit more. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, the stories about the Resistance and the First Order trying to find the map to Luke Skywalker, which BB-8 had part of it, but Rey saw the part that BB-8 had, so they captured Rey because they knew she had seen the map. And then it was, all right, so you had Finn that wanted to go there and save her. You had Han Solo that wanted to appeal to his son and try to get him back. And the Resistance would probably send a couple people over there to try and get Rey back so they don't get that part of the map. So really, like I said, there's story and character motivations for all the good guys being at the base without having to do a fucking Death Star. So again, the script to me just didn't call for it. And the Death Star just felt tacked on. But anyway, and I think the climax would have played even better if you didn't cut back to the Death Star stuff. And I'm going to keep calling it a Death Star because that's basically what it was. But anyway, you get to all the good guys are on the Starkiller base, and Han confronts Kylo Ren on this bridge. And this is where the Death Star aspect actually worked, at least from a cinematography standpoint, because they explained that this new Starkiller base, Death Star, whatever, it siphons power from the nearby sun to power its weapons that it can use to blow up planets. And the positive of that is that you see the sun like getting darker and darker and darker as the scene plays on, and by the time Han and Kylo are on this bridge, the sun is almost completely gone and it just gets darker and darker, and it really makes that scene more effective. You didn't need a Death Star to do that, but at least that aspect of the Death Star was like, okay, at least it made the lighting and the cinematography of that particular scene even more powerful and made it work even better. So Han and Kylo Ren are on this bridge, and Kylo takes the mask off, and I do like that he's not deformed. Well, he gets scarred by the end of the movie, but I do like that he's not like super deformed like Darth Vader right off the bat. So it's, again, he's trying to live up to Darth Vader's legacy, and that's what he's trying to do, and that's his goal. And he gets told earlier in the film that he can only achieve the full power of the dark side if he kills Han Solo, which I suspected that Han was going to die. From the first trailer, I'm like, Han's not going to survive this movie, is he? But especially since I know that they had wanted to kill Han off in Return of the Jedi, and Lucas nixed it because he wanted the big happy ending. But you've got Chewie watching, you've got Finn and Rey watching, and they're watching this all go down. And Han is talking to his son, trying to plead to him, and Kylo Ren cuts down Han Solo. And yes, I did cry in the theater. Yes, I did. I shed some ugly man tears. Yes, I did. It's like watching one of your cinematic heroes get cut down and thrown off of a bridge. And what made it even more heartbreaking was the reaction of Chewbacca, who started roaring like crazy and went into fuck it mode. It was like, all right, fuck. He shot Kylo Ren, which was great, and then he activated the explosives, and everyone's like, oh my god, Chewie is pissed. Chewie is so pissed, and I feel so bad for Chewie. And then to make it even worse, they cut to Leia, and you know how in New Hope, where Obi-Wan felt the weight of Alderaan blowing up, and was like, oh, I just felt, it was really this big moment, which which again, there was one of the reasons the Death Star kind of felt tacked on is that they do blow up an entire star system, and the weight of it just was not felt at all. But here you get something like that with Leia, and even Yoda when the Jedi are all killed off in the Order 66 scene. One of the best parts of the entire prequels, by far, And Yoda starts clutching at his chest like he felt the weight of all the Jedi being killed. Here, it's one person being killed, and Leia felt the weight of it. And they cut to Leia, and she and she felt that Han had been killed. And that scene broke my heart, and it made it even worse to take. But it makes the movie work better as a result, and really leads into this amazing climactic lightsaber battle, which I'll cover that in a second. But really, that whole scene was heartbreaking, but it was so well done that it was actually my favorite part of the movie. And I really liked how that was all handled and how all that was done. But it leads to Rey and Finn retreating into the woods, the snowy area, trying to get away from Kylo Ren. And Kylo Ren, a wounded Kylo Ren, with blood dripping down from him because Chewie had shot him, following them. And it really led to this great scene where Finn tries to take up the lightsaber. It was Anakin's lightsaber passed on to Luke that he lost at Bespin. I don't know how the hell they managed to find that lightsaber, but there are a couple of things that were kind of like loose hanging story threads, and I'll cover that when I talk about what I want in future episodes, but that they can play with later. But Finn tries to take up the lightsaber and go after Kylo, and ultimately gets cut down. Not killed, but he does get wounded, and he gets the lightsaber knocked away, and Rey, who's I guess I should go back to the earlier scene, is that there's an interrogation scene between Rey and Kylo Ren, and that's where Kylo first takes the mask off, and he's trying to use his Force powers to extract the information she has on the map from her, and it seems to activate her Force powers. In trying to use the Force to get information from Rey, it seems to activate her Force powers a little bit, and he starts wigging out again, where it's like, oh my god, fucking hell, she has the Force. And, like, fuck this, she has the Force. And, really, again, the interrogation scene is great and really kind of creepy and well done. And so we know that Rey is a Force user at this point. So when Anakin's lightsaber gets knocked away and Kylo Ren tries to Force grab it to pull it to his hand, it actually flies away from him and goes to Rey's hand, which I thought was a really cool moment. And some people criticize it, yeah, she got her Force powers a little quick, but it was so well done and it made for such a great moment that I didn't really care. And yeah, the final lightsaber battle, it's between Rey and Kylo. And again, this is the difference between this movie and what the prequels did, where the prequels had this top-notch choreography most of the time, especially in Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith. It was like really well done choreography, but the story wasn't there to really support it. And here, you don't get the top-notch choreography, which makes sense to me because Rey's not trained, Kylo is not fully trained, and he's wounded. It wouldn't make sense for it to be, them bouncing off the walls and juggling lightsabers like you saw in the prequels. Where, to the prequels' credit, it made sense for it to look like that because this is the Jedi at their peak. These are top-notch, fully trained Jedi, so it made sense that they would look like that in the prequel days. But here, it's like these two not fully trained or not trained at all Force users that are kind of raw and still trying to find their footing in how skilled they are. I mean, Kylo Ren is the most, skilled Force user in the movie, aside from Luke, but I'll cover that in a minute. Most skilled Force user in the movie, he's probably never been in a lightsaber duel before, so it made sense to me that, it wasn't fully choreographed and over the top, and they didn't do all the cool flips and everything. That made sense to me, but you have the characters and the story to support this fight, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time while watching it. And I liked Rey, I liked the story and the build-up and everything, and Kylo Ren had just killed Han Solo, so I want him to get his comeuppance, and then Rey is able to find her inner strength and Force powers and beat him, but not kill him, leaving the door open for more. And Supreme Leader Snoke said that it's like, all right, it's time to complete his training. So there's a lot more to look forward to in future episodes. How was Finn able to break the Stormtrooper programming that they had put on him? That's kind of a loose story thread. Even though you get a sense of his story and who he is, there's not a whole lot of explanation for how he was the one guy that was able to break the Stormtrooper programming. So that's something they may touch up on in future episodes. Who knows? Who is Rey? We don't even know who her family is or what's going on. And a lot of people are already speculating that she's Luke Skywalker's daughter, and which... Okay, and it'd be a way, like I said, it'd be a way to work Mara Jade into the continuity. So we'll see. We'll see how that all works out. I mean, we know that she was on Jakku waiting for her family to come back, but we don't know who her family is. And she didn't really want to get dragged into this whole adventure because, like, no, I have to be on Jakku to wait for my family. And she ultimately just kind of gets pulled into this whole scenario. But we'll all see how that plays out in future episodes. It's something they could play with. Is Supreme Leader Snoke Darth Plagueis? I don't know. We'll find out in the future. Will Kylo Ren, what is he going to turn into now that he's killed Han Solo, which was kind of like the thing holding him back from being fully a dark side Force user. So, again, we'll see how that all plays out. So, a lot of stuff to play with in future episodes, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in 8 and 9. Before I talk about the ending, I actually want to talk about the opening scene, which I thought was terrific. I thought the opening scene that's how you start a fucking trilogy, because it wasn't a retread of A New Hope, where they did the starship chasing the smaller starship. But it was something similar, where it started off action-packed, but moving the story forward. It's like, okay, the First Order, they are monsters. They are vicious killers, and they just burned down a village trying to get what they wanted. You get a sense of who Kylo Ren is, largely through visuals with minimal dialogue. You got a sense of who Finn was with no dialogue from him. You knew that he was the stormtrooper that stood out. And that whole opening scene was great. But also I want to talk about the ending, where Luke Skywalker is finally revealed. You don't see Luke up until the last thing in the movie is Luke's reveal. And I thought that was great, because it would have been so easy. And actually, I thought when the lightsaber got knocked away at the end, that Luke was going to pick it up and fight Kylo Ren. I thought that's what they were going to do. And it would have been so easy to do that, but it would have been very fan servicey. And there was a lot of fan service in this movie. But I like that they held back on that one, because it allowed Rey to be the hero. And now that the whole story was building up to finding Luke, and it felt appropriate that was the final scene. And that last scene is great, and it really brought back mythology and all sorts of other great things back to the Star Wars universe. And that whole scene where Luke just turns around, pulls the hood back, and it was like, it's Luke, he's back, and he's probably going to train Rey in the ways of the Force. Now, Rey has a trainer, Kylo Ren has a trainer. What's going to happen? I was like, where's this going to go from now? And I think the Starkiller base destroyed, like, the Senate. I think, again, that wasn't exactly very clear. I would have liked more explanation of how the government works. So there's probably, the galaxy's probably in anarchy right now. So I don't know where this is going to pick up. The funny thing is, with Star Wars sequels, there's normally a lot of time in between the sequels, so shit has really happened in between the movies. Like, between episodes 1 and 2, 10 years have gone by. Between episodes 2 and 3, a few years have gone by. And, like, the Clone War is almost over by this point. Between episodes 3 and 4, there's like 20 years or so. Between 4 and 5, at least a few years have gone by. At least it feels that way. 5 and 6, a few years have gone by. So, and then between 6 and 7, about 30 years have gone by. So there's always like a big gap of time in between the sequels. But I think episode 8 may pick up exactly where 7 left off, which has never happened with a Star Wars movie before. But you might get like an immediate, because, Finn got hurt and we don't know like what he hasn't woken up from his coma yet. So, and then Rey has just met Luke Skywalker. So you may see a situation where 8 picks up exactly where 7 left off, which is, again, never happened with a Star Wars movie before, but I kind of want it. So it's very exciting to think about. And I'm really excited to see where it goes. And I think now that I've gotten the fan servicey stuff out of the way, the story can continue to grow and develop from there, and hopefully get even better going forward. So, like I said, Force Awakens, very, very good. I'm a happy Star Wars fan. Couple of flaws, but nothing truly damning. And overall, I was very happy with the film. And spoiler, I'm actually going to go see the film later today after I'm done filming this. I'm meeting up with friends up in Frederick, Maryland to go see it again. So, so that's really cool. Thumbs up for that. So, yes, thank you, J.J. Abrams. Thank you, everybody who worked on this movie. I thought overall you did a very good job, and I'm a very happy Star Wars fan because of it. So, that is all I have to say about The Force Awakens. And that is it for this video, really. I've got one more video to do for 2015. That'll be my big end of the year thing, where I talk about the best of professional wrestling for 2015, but also talk about my favorite movies and my favorite TV shows as well for 2015, just as kind of a summary of the whole year. So that is all I have for you today. But yeah, happy Star Wars fan right now. But that's all I have for now, and peace out, everybody. I've got one more video for you, so stay tuned for that.